Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's some discernment. Like, I would have to seriously consider if I could share like if I was invited to speak at a conference and somebody who I think is spiritually dangerous, like wolf in sheep's clothing dangerous, was invited to speak too, that would take some soul searching. And I have to be like, okay, if I were to do this, how can I make sure that my presence is not being seen as validating this person? But at the same time, it might be different for different people. It might be, there's so many other
If I
factors.
if I got a speaking invite to speak at a conference that Mark Driscoll was also at, I would use my time, at least a portion of it, to call out Mark Driscoll for his cowardice, for not being accountable to the elders at Mars Hill.
Yeah.
He is a coward, and yet he puts on this big boy masculine personality.
Yeah.
This guy, I swear, has more psychological insecurity issues than any pastor that I see out there, because he just kind of projects and tries to put on this persona.
Yeah.
But I say all that because...
Have you had any interactions with him ever?
No, I've tweeted to him and he's blocked me,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though it was constructive, you know, it's like block.
Yeah.
Again, he's got these insecurities, surely.
For viewers, let me just clarify for viewers, because again, we have viewers all over the world sometimes. Mark Driscoll was a very popular megachurch pastor. His church basically crumbled. Christianity Today has done a podcast series called The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill. I strongly recommend listening to that podcast series, not just because of it shows you what kind of leadership that church was under, but because of the lessons that it has to teach anyone seeking to be in pastoral ministry. It is a case study on what not to do. In seminary, we would do case studies on like churches that, you know, or pastors that suffered downfalls and all this. This is a case study that every Christian should learn from.
Yeah. So Driscoll refused to go under the punishment of the elders for his behavior. So he resigned. And within like 2 weeks, 7 of the 9 satellite churches dissolved within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, if you're thinking about healthy church life, you would think that these congregations, even the satellite campuses, would continue meeting, because it's not about the pastor. But look, basically it's a lesson that this guy became a celebrity.
Yeah.
And people worshiped him. He became an idol for people. He's not there, we're out, right?
Yeah.
So that is not healthy at all. And yet here he is again. Now he's in Arizona being a pastor of a church.
Yeah. And I see people post memes or quotes of his on Instagram. I'm like, and they don't, to their credit, most of the time, the ones who are sharing it have no idea who he is. And they're just like, oh, I like that phrase. I'm like, well, that's a good
Pastor
phrase.
Mark. I'm just
look into who's saying it before sharing. Do you think so? That's an example of something that I think is a very toxic thing, which is the celebrity pastor. Pastors who have entourages, pastors who have bodyguards, pastors who are unapproachable, pastors who don't know the people in their congregation. Like, all of these things I think are oxymoronic. But do you see it in apologetics? Do you see the danger of celebrity apologists?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you do see it at the apologetics events. I mean, which I enjoy going to and, you know, have put on, and, you know, you bring in a big name, it helps sells more tickets.
Yeah.
You know, which helps you meet your event costs. But you do see it. You know, there are pros and cons to the celebrity idea. Let's give a very popular one. Ravi Zacharias.
I was just going to say.
Right? So hugely popular apologist and an evangelist, right? He had this way of bringing in English literature and poetry and hymns to communicate theological beliefs and apologetic issues without getting into the formal arguments like other apologists do. They get into the weeds, but you're not going to reach as big of audience if you get into the weeds. So Ravi was great at that. Well, what happened? He became such a celebrity, so much money, so much power, that, hey, he's going to be an investor in a massage parlor. Where's my red flag? Like, why would the board of directors ever allow him? Why does he need the money? Why does he need a side hustle and a massage parlor of all things? You're just like, what is going on? Why is he going to, Thailand for a month at a time and not communicating with his staff at all? What is this? Like, that's just bonkers. And so, the investigation uncovered, basically sexual affairs, abuse, not to mention sort of spiritual abuse, psychological abuse, which, just shouldn't be had in a Christian ministry.
Yeah. And, I remember that one hit me. How did that affect you? Because that one hit me hard. After college, there was a summer where I strongly considered interning at RZIM when I was thinking either my path was, because I was open air apologetics all through college. I would do street preaching on campus, the Cliff Knetley, like just get out there and start talking and interact with students. And that was like my thing. I did it at Harvard Square. I did it over in Cambridge, just talking to crowds, doing open air apologetics. So when I was done with my internship at the Wesley Foundation at University of Georgia, I had to decide, okay, now what I'm going to do. And it was move to Atlanta, work at RZIM, get into this apologetics, or go to Gordon Conwell, learn the languages, get into, and I ended up going to that path. But so when all of this stuff with Robbie came out, I was just like, man, not only is it a bummer on just a normal level, like when any Christian leader falls, like it's a gross thing and it makes you feel bad. But I was like, this guy genuinely had, like you said, an ability. He was a brilliant communicator, orator, great on his feet, interacting with people in live Q&A settings, which is very hard to do. And it just, I was like, man, of all the things, it was a gut punch. It really was. How was it in the apologetics? Because by that time I was not in the apologetics community very actively. I don't go to conferences, don't really follow a lot of the stuff. How was it when that happened for other? But did anybody else come out and were like, "Hey guys, this needs to give us pause, and we need to reassess our board, our accountability structures," or was it just kind of like people just dropped him like a hot potato and like, yeah?
Well, so here's another thing to think about for apologetics ministry. When you ask what did people do, a lot of apologists don't have boards. A lot of folks are just kind of these solo ministry workers, and they just kind of do apologetics as a hobby. And this is another problem. And we've run into it even within our own organization, because we've partnered with people who have been solo, and we've had to hold them accountable, and they didn't want to be held accountable. I won't give examples or details, but we've parted ways with people a couple times now. And so what that's done for us at our organization is our board of directors, we've created policies now, basically saying that any ministry partners have to agree to these things. I'll give one example. In one particular case, while there were many issues in this case, one thing was the guy stopped going to church. And you're just like, well, you're an apologist. Why are you not worshiping and in community, living in community with other Christians?
Right.
So that's sort of the spiritual concern, but also like on a strategy level, if you're an apologist and you need to do fundraising to help support your ministry, you got to be in a church, because you're going to be meeting people and ministering to them and with them, and they're going to become your donors. So it was like multifaceted why we're like, okay. So when you ask what do people do, a lot of people are solo. I think a lot of people threw their books away, or they donated them. So what I did was I donated mine, and I kept one book because it was a collection of essays. But it was just kind of, now granted, the message within the books was good. There was nothing wrong with it. It was the messenger. So yes, logical fallacy. But for me, it was like Ravi was a hero of mine of sorts, Yeah. And so it was a reminder that even the celebrities, the heroes, are just humans.
Yeah.
And in this case, he was good at hiding his flaws.
What the gifting that somebody has makes them, when they choose to use it for simple purposes, that much harder. Like it makes them that much more effective because they're so good at, like if you're a gift of interacting and leading a conversation and responding to accusations and all these things that make for a very good on the fly apologist, then of course you're going to be good at doing that in your own self-interest. And it's something that, I mean, in scripture, see, like the judges, like they were really good at judging and really good at being sinful in a number of cases,
Yeah.
because of that gifting. So it definitely, I mean, whether it's a celebrity pastor like Driscoll or a celebrity parachurch person like Ravi, just it is crucial to have people that you are accountable to.
Yep.
Whether it's a
Absolutely.
board or whether it's your local church under whose discipline you willingly submit, unless
Yeah.
they
Well,
are doing something that needs to be, obviously you don't just willingly submit to anyone, but there's got to be something, some levels of checks
yeah.
and
Well,
balances.
and for me, it's both. In some of these cases where, we had to part ways with people and they thought, I was being unfair to them or something. I said, look, this is a board decision. Here's the board members' contact information if you want to reach out to them. And if you think I've like morally wronged you, here's my pastor's contact information. You're welcome to reach out to him and, and get him involved with this. Well, what's happened in the couple times that this has been the case, nothing, crickets,
Yeah.
no communication.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. The people who want, think that they should hold me accountable, they don't like accountability. That's one of the problems in apologetics ministry.
Yeah.
Is that they don't want to be held accountable.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this has led. I mean, I've encountered narcissists in apologetics ministry. So this gets into the celebrity, kind of thing. I've encountered narcissists who will take advantage of people, who will just flat out lie. One guy even said, "Get this, accountability is not in the Bible." So. In some of these unpleasant conversations that sometimes you have to have. I mean, look, when you run any business, ministry or not, any business, you have to have unpleasant conversations with contractors or employees even.
Yeah.
That's the nature of working.
Right.
And the nature of human relationships. Well, so in these cases, I always have a board director because of accountability purposes. So that way it's not a he said sort of thing, or he said, she said. And so yeah, my board director was on that call, and this guy said accountability is not in the Bible. And we were both dumbfounded because it's so obvious that accountability is throughout the scriptures.
Yeah. It's a major theme in the Bible.
Yeah. And so that was an apologist saying accountability. And you're just like, what the? Yeah. So I've really had some interesting I've come across some interesting people in my decade plus of parachurch apologetics ministry.
Yeah.
But turning it to a good note, it is healthy and good to have multiple levels of accountability within your own organization, or for the apologist that isn't formally organized as a 501c3, still include multiple levels of accountability.
Yeah.
So multiple pastors, even have sort of an informal advisory council, mentors that you can keep you accountable. I've got one guy who keeps me accountable on my fundraising work, that I have to do. I say, here's my goal. And then he checks in with me, and man, it's unpleasant when I've failed to meet my goals, sometimes even year after year. But it is helpful because in the long run, I keep on working at it. Right. So it's good and it's healthy. It's beneficial to have accountability partners, ministry partners.
It's essential.
Be doing the solo work.
Yeah, it's absolutely essential. I mean, Lone Ranger Christianity is not a thing. It was always churches sending people, bodies of believers sending people that just thought, I'm sent, so I'm gonna go. There's a lot of that, and that's more because of just innate human pride, desire for reputation, just a very worldly. I want status. Although there can be some pure motives mixed in, I think people are almost always a mixture of motives. And if you don't have people that you are subject to in some way, it is so easy to rationalize, to blur the lines between what is this that I want and what is the Lord leading me to.
Yep.
And it's a danger.